Welcome back, gang. This is a quick reminder that Tech Talks Daily is part of the Tech Talks Network, which is my very own curated ecosystem of podcasts built for business leaders that are trying to navigate the fast-moving world of digital transformation. So I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and every episode aims to bring you inside conversations with some of the biggest names in tech and business. So whether you're working on AI integration, building a more resilient cybersecurity strategy, refreshing your IT infrastructure, or launching bold innovations, this network of shows is designed to meet you where you are. So the Tech Talks Network is more than just interviews. It's space for decision makers to explore new thinking, challenge assumptions, and also turn insights into action. So if you're ready to rethink your approach and make smarter decisions in a tech-driven world, or find your way through all the noise and drill down on a subject that you're interested in, please go to techtalksnetwork.com. You'll find 8 podcasts. They're all hosted by me still. I'm afraid there's no way of escaping that. But let me know your thoughts. And there's even a little section there where you can hit message and you can record an audio message and send it to me. Other than that, let's dive in to today's conversation, because I've got a question for you. What happens when a global organization invests heavily into emerging technologies like AI and automation, but ultimately fails to see measurable results? Got me thinking, are businesses chasing innovation too quickly without a clear strategy? Well, in today's episode, my guest is a digital value transformation principal at PwC, and he's going to be bringing a global perspective on helping businesses turn technological excitement that we all see and hear, but turn it into real business value. And while many organizations rush to adopt AI tools and automation platforms, my guest is going to challenge everyone to think deeper about ambition, execution and alignment. And he's going to share first-hand experience of how he advises Fortune 500 companies on how to bridge the gap between digital ambition and sustainable outcomes. So we're going to be reflecting on that disconnect that many leaders face between deploying emerging tech and achieving long-term business goals. And from missed opportunities to common blind spots, we're going to explore why so many digital transformation efforts are still stalling in pilot phase, and how process debt and technical debt can quietly sabotage progress, and what leaders should be doing to sequence transformation journeys for longer lasting impact. And finally, what role does culture really play in digital transformation? And how can companies value ROI beyond cost savings? Well, if you ever wondered how to move past pilot projects and generate real growth from AI and automation, I'm hoping we're going to deliver you some answers today. But enough from me. Let's get my guest onto the podcast now. So thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Neil, thank you. Thank you, obviously, for having me. I really appreciate it and the flexibility. I'm a senior partner at PwC, where I lead our growth, turnaround, and transformation and digital offerings. And when I say digital, it's not the tech side of the house. It's actually digital value transformation. So how do you embed digital as part of the growth, transformation, and turnaround offerings for our clients? My work typically focuses primarily on the consumer market space, CPG sector, though I also have had historically deep financial services sector as well. And then I've had the privilege of having both a P&L operations experience as well as in the consulting, having the privilege of being a partner with PwC for about 10 to 11 years. My objective is twofold. Obviously, I'm humbled to lead a large group of partners and team here in the US in this domain, but also help Fortune 500 companies translate what I typically call ambition into action and driving measurable growth and making technology this day and age a true enabler of a strategy when they're doing transformation or they're doing turnarounds or actually they're trying to grow or reinvent their businesses.
And before we started recording the podcast today, we were sharing stories about how travel can take you around the world with your work. So your work does indeed take you all around the world. You're speaking to me today in Dubai. So I'm curious, from all the conversations that you have in every corner of the world, what's the biggest mistake that you see companies making when they're investing in new technologies, like on things like AI, agentic AI, and automation, and all those big buzzwords we hear? What are the mistakes that you see most people making?
Neil, that is the new buzzword in town, isn't it? Agentic AI and agentic automation, in addition to the Gen AI that we've seen in the recent past. I'd say the key point over here is when companies confuse adoption with outcomes. And I think, right, too many companies are really chasing the next new buzzword or the latest technology without a clear business outcome or a change in their entire ecosystem architecture, whether it's be reinventing business models or whether it's actually driving growth or trying to enhance experience. What we're seeing is some of the companies, some of the clients treat AI in this day and age, and now agentic or agentic AI, as a silver bullet rather than a key enabler or a capability that needs to be designed, deployed, scaled, but scaled thoughtfully, and effectively starting with the tech versus the problem they're trying to solve, right? I recently wrote an article in HBR, and I call this thing as process debt. So everyone's trying to figure out how to deploy AI for a particular use case. And when you adopt that without solving a process debt, it doesn't help. Does that, so effectively, Neil, this is the point here is confusing adoption with outcomes. And then, and rather than starting with the tech, start with the problem that they're trying to solve for and the associated outcome that you're trying to achieve.
And it is such a great point. From all the conversations that I've had, like you said, there's been so many businesses have rushed out and adopted all the different formats of AI, but many of those AI projects, they're still stuck in pilot mode. They've not been implemented. They've not been scaled. And I think it was earlier this year, there was like this big realization, almost an epiphany from so many different businesses that were like, hey, where's the ROI on this expensive tech projects that we've got out there? So on that side of things, why do you think so many digital transformation projects struggle to show measurable outcomes? Because the belts and braces approach to IT since the dawn of time, where you can only improve what you measure, but it's almost like people have got distracted by the AI and have forgotten that golden rule, right?
True. I'd say a handful of things. One, it's misalignment between ambition, execution, and metrics. Most transformations, because they're fail because they're siloed, and hence it's a use case driven approach. Two, it is when I mentioned at the top of the house, it's ambition, execution, and criteria. So first, it is failing because they are siloed use case driven approach versus really being AI or technology being part of the overall problem that you're trying to solve. But the two is lacking clear success criteria and what the value creation needs to be at any level of the P&L, right? Cost or service experience or growth, revenue, margin, etc. And then the third thing is it is owned and led by your IT or CIO organization versus digital to be successful needs to be owned by the business or jointly with IT, not just by IT.
Mm.
So if you combine these things, you need alignment on three levels. Enterprise ambition, effectively looking at AI, not a use case approach, but more of a fundamental driver or enabler for transformation or growth or reinvention. Two, business unit value creation, so being led or jointly with the business at hand. And then three, operating model integration. So it's not just let's go deploy AI in a small little piece in HR and a small little piece in the sales organization to help free up capacity, but it is really helping integrate it as part of your true operating model as well.
And in your view, then, what should business leaders be doing differently to ensure that these tech investments that we're talking about, ensure that they align with some of those long-term strategic goals and be better aligned? Any advice around that, or what they should be doing?
Yeah, we've seen many clients, and when we advise our clients is, let's not start to figure out where can you deploy AI or agentic or orchestration or cloud or some of those machine learning technologies, etc. Let's start with, where do you want to be? What is your ambition, your growth or margin ambition, as an example, or cost? And then reverse engineer the capabilities and the technology required to get there. That could, and effectively, let's assume if it's a cost takeout example, are you fundamentally taking out the process debt and re-engineering your end-to-end or redesigning your end-to-end processes and value chains? And then using digital as an enabler, right? So treat digital as a strategic lever, not as a core use case driven approach. And continuously test alignment with your talent, your leadership agenda, and how you're trying to move, how you're kind of chipping away at your end goal or the outcome that you're looking to achieve.
And I'm curious, when you're seeing so many different companies from all around the world rolling out new tools, rolling out new platforms, chasing those big buzzwords like agentic AI, what are the most common blind spots that you're seeing most often that often derail these projects? Anything that stands out? Any trends that you're seeing there?
I'd say they're a handful, but the one that I'd say and call out specifically is underestimating behavior change and legacy friction.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the time, leaders or our companies often overlook the human and culture elements. There is change fatigue. There are capability gaps. There's resistance to end-to-end process redesign or end-to-end value chain re-engineering. So that's, and there's also a blind spot to sometimes integration with some of your legacy systems and the time it takes to stabilize as you reinvent your processes, as you re-change your operating models, and then the associated org design once, and then letting the dust settle once everything has been now rolled out and scaled out.
And again, I'm curious, is there, or have you seen a good way of balancing things like those quick wins that are kind of needed to get the ball rolling, get people excited about the kind of technology and the difference it can make, but also alongside the need for sustainable long-term digital change, the real big difference that we can make? Is there a better way to balance between those two worlds rather than just get one or the other?
Yeah, it's interesting, Neil. We were just having this conversation here yesterday with another client executive of ours. And the key is over here is sequencing. But before you start sequencing is, what is your overall transformation journey or the associated roadmap? And how do you sequence it with tactical changes, operational changes, and strategic changes? You need to win. These type of transformations are game changers, have high impact, and touch every level of the organization. So it cannot be a black box approach for 2 years or 3 years. You need to win trust with high visibility, quick wins. But that needs to be part of a broader transformation agenda and a roadmap. What I'd say is, as you're doing those quick wins, they're building blocks to your overall outcome and strategic agenda. But you're chipping away at your at quick wins, and then piling on the operational wins and the tactical wins, and which then lead to the strategic wins, if you will. And collectively, it's a building block to get to that X% growth or X% cost takeout, etc.
And I am relieved that this year, yes, we're hearing buzzwords like agentic AI and AI and maybe even quantum computing and everything else you can throw in there. But I would say the biggest buzzword of the year is ROI. I think businesses are finally waking up to the importance of it. So are you able to share maybe a real world example of something where targeted automation or AI led project actually led to clear business growth and secured that elusive ROI? Are there any positive stories that you could share?
For one large CPG company, we were able to use a combination of AI, ML, and digital enablement, if you will, data science, to deploy those key technologies, next-gen technologies, to optimize their trade promotions and enhance their pricing structure and their rollout to retailers, clients by channel, by retailer, and by market. Because of these technologies, we were able to combine real-time point of sale data, price elasticity models, layering in data science and machine learning to effectively define where to have the right promotions, which channels for what SKUs and what categories. And when we did that, also along with that, defining where it is best to help with pricing as well, and where there are price sensitive customers to ensure that we're not leaving any customer behind, if you will. And when we did that, the result was almost a 3% uplift in revenue and a 2% margin expansion. And our key differentiated approach over here as well, again, this is a mammoth task, but getting those value drops in embedded fairly quickly to show the impact and show the successes and the wins was highly successful. And that's why, and then overlaying that with operating model and how you do pricing or how do you do promotions effectively across the categories was a huge win.
Something I always try and do, especially towards the end of every tech podcast here that we release every day, is give everyone listening, regardless of what industry they are currently in, is give them a valuable takeaway, something that they can go away and action. So on this side of things, how would you advise anyone listening or any organization listening how they could better evaluate the ROI of emerging technologies and beyond just cost savings? Because I think very often we get dragged down by let's use technology to create cost savings. I think we're at a time where we should be thinking bigger than that. But any advice that you would offer?
Yeah, I just touched on an example which helps with revenue uplift and margin expansion. Yeah. What I'd say is broaden the ROI lens from just a pure play cost efficiency or a tech enablement capacity creation to enablement. And when I say enablement, look at 4 key dimensions. A, revenue uplift. B, time to market. C, risk mitigation. And then 4 is a strategic agility. The ability to enter new markets, personalize at scale, or shift models faster than competitors. These outcomes are hard to measure sometimes, but are much more valuable. And given the current set of technologies that we have at our disposal, very much doable.
Completely agree with you. And then if we also look at all those big buzzwords, AI, agentic AI agents, digital transformation, all these things collectively sound and feel incredibly exciting. But no matter how sophisticated, no matter how advanced that technology plays, it will fail very quickly if your organization's culture is not ready to embrace that level of technology. And this is something I see fail time and time again. But what role does leadership culture play in maybe making digital transformation more than just a buzzword and ensuring that everybody's on board with the pace of technological change rather than being afraid?
Yeah, Neil, as you all know, and as you're aware in your conversations, and I touched on this briefly earlier on, culture is key and culture is a multiplier effect.
Yeah.
Leaders set the tone. It's not just through the vision, but it's also how they role model, if you will, behavior, reward risk taking, making it's okay to be uncomfortable, if you will, our executives, and insist on what I'd say cross-functional execution, which ties directly back to the comment I made, end-to-end value chain transformation. Companies that really are embedding or embed digital in the leadership DNA, I'd say, not just pilots and not taking an immense amount of time to even make a decision to move forward, are the ones that are going to scale, change, and also one of the ones who are having key successes.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. Pure gold from my side and so many valuable takeaways for everyone listening. I'm going to see if there's something we can do for you now, because some of the biggest names in business, VC funding and tech have either been guests on this podcast, maybe even listened to this podcast, or even a friend of a friend could be listening. So is there a person that you'd love to have a private breakfast or lunch with? Because he or she might just get to listen to this. So let's see what we can manifest together. But who would it be and why?
Listen, I've had the privilege of crossing paths with Satya Nadella, but I'd say a one-on-one private lunch or breakfast would be Satya Nadella. I've been impressed truly with what he's done at Microsoft, both culturally, strategically, and technologically. It's extraordinary, right? We've seen that. He's led, and the beauty is he's led with empathy. He's rebuilt trust in the company and showed that digital transformation isn't just about tech. It is about mindset. It is about culture. And I'd love to hear how he balances long-term vision with day-to-day execution and how he's chipping away and learning as he continues to grow, both personally and overall.
Yeah, what a great choice. He is. Well, I've not met him myself, but he comes across as someone that just gets it and everything that we've talked about today. So hopefully somebody listening somewhere will be able to pass this message on. We've put it into the universe. Let's see what we can make happen. If something does happen, please give me an invite as well. I'll come and join you. But other than that, for anyone listening wanting to find out more information about your work at PwC and anything we talked about today, dig in a little bit more detail, anywhere you'd like to point everyone?
I'd say the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn, right? This is where I regularly share insights on transformation, digital enablement, AI, and leadership. You can search for my name. I'm always open to meaningful conversations. But the other alternative path is to look on, if you're looking to unlock growth through transformation or tech enablement and digital value creation, I'd say you can also search for some of the great stuff that we've done on the PwC website, and we're happy to provide that link as well.
Awesome. Well, I will link up to everything that you mentioned there, make it easy for people to find you. And so much we talked about today in just 30 minutes, from best practices for ensuring tech investments, support broader business goals, common blind spots that many companies face when adopting some of these new tools, and of course, how targeted solutions like AI and automation, when they're done the right way, it can actually drive growth and efficiency, not just cost saving. So many big takeaways. I invite everyone listening to let me know their thoughts and their experiences. But thank you for starting this conversation today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Neil, for having me. Really appreciate your time. Enjoy the conversation.
So over to you. Are your tech investments really driving growth? Or are you just ticking a digital box or jumping on a bandwagon? Well, today's conversation, I think, brought forward an honest and refreshing look at the operational and cultural gaps that often derail digital transformation. So it was great to hear how business leaders can rethink ROI. And the big takeaway for me was not simply in terms of cost reduction. It's time to think bigger and better than that. Think about measurable value in revenue, margin, time to market, strategic agility. And my guest call to start with ambition and then reverse engineer the technology roadmap is one that many companies, I think, need to hear right now. Because digital transformation is less about tools, more about leadership, alignment, and execution. And the companies that are successfully scaling AI and automation, these are the ones that are integrating them into their operating model. not isolating them in departmental silos. One final takeaway today was how change fatigue, legacy friction, and underestimating the human element, how all these things can collectively slow or even sabotage your transformation efforts. But the good news is, by focusing on those early wins, clear metrics, by focusing on little areas like this, organisations can build trust while staying aligned to those long-term goals. But enough rambling for me. Let me put the mic in front of you. What's your organisation's biggest blind spot when it comes to digital value creation? I want you to keep the conversation going. Please pop by techtalksnetwork.com. You can leave me an audio message there. Equally, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. But thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it and love to hear your thoughts. I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.